Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Hey, welcome back to another fun episode of Next to Madison. This is episode 188. And on today's episode, we are talking about the subconscious mind and why it is so important and how you can help rewire your subconscious to start living the life of your dreams, making things work for you, and just being able to tap into the things you actually want to do. I have been listening actually on Audible. I've been listening to The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, and it's amazing. It's about a 6-hour Audible tape. I listen to it when I'm walking. Sometimes I listen to it at the gym, and it is just unbelievable. But how this book really kind of starts is why certain people live such different lives. Why one person's life seems to be so easy and another person's life seems to just be difficult. Okay. And it really comes down to the subconscious mind. And a lot of us don't realize it because it is the subconscious mind that we're operating more on our conscious mind level, but we need to be able to rewire that and have that programmed properly so we can then use things like positive affirmations and the law of attraction to bring in the things that we want, because we all deserve to live the life of our dreams. And you can do this. And if you're struggling, or if you have a great life, but obviously you want more, this episode is going to be absolutely amazing. The guest we have on today has been a subconscious rewiring coach. She has a new method called the Rapid Rewire Method, which I'm super excited to learn more about. She's also been a self-love coach. So this episode, you do not want to miss this episode. It's going to be amazing. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. As you guys all know, I wrote a self-help book myself that's doing very well. I'm just got back from New York. I'm back in Denver right now, hopefully for the rest of the holiday season. Might have to do some traveling. I'll keep you guys all posted on that. Very exciting stuff coming up. So yeah, we're going to get into this and it's going to be amazing. And even though I feel that I'm on a good path and have been able to get out of my own way, I always feel no matter what, we can always learn more and improve more and make our lives even better, because we are all unique, amazing individuals and deserve everything that our heart desires. I had recently heard something, a quote somebody said, and I just loved it. If the dream is in your mind, it is obtainable. Because if it wasn't obtainable for you, the dream never would have popped into your mind. So remember that and use this as motivation. And we will be right back after this brief message with our amazing guest on this episode.
Hey, it's Madison Malloy. I'm excited to announce that my new book, Time to Lighten the Fuck Up, is now available online and in stores. You can pick up your copy today by going to Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. This new book is a humorous self-help guide to help you remove the obstacles that are holding you back so you can take things less seriously and live a more enjoyable life. I'm so excited for you to read it. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. We now have our guest on this episode. I'm so excited for this episode. I know you guys could hear my enthusiasm in the intro, but I'm like super, super excited. So I would like to stop talking and welcome our amazing guest, Stephanie Kwong, who is the co-founder and CEO of the Rapid Rewire Method. Welcome. How are you?
I am so good. Thank you for having me on your show. It's really wonderful to be here with you.
I'm so excited because in my intro I was talking about how I've been listening to the Power of the Subconscious Mind on Audible and how it's so amazing, and how he really kind of starts with how two people, one experiences a very easy life, things are good, and then somebody else is just everything's just so turbulent. And he kind of explains the differences and really what it's leading up to is the power of how the subconscious mind is wired or is programmed for these two individuals and why their lives are so different. So in the intro, I explained that you previously were a subconscious rewiring coach. So I want you to kind of start by telling us what the subconscious mind is for those who aren't exactly clear, and why it is so important to reach your goals.
Yep. So my understanding and my learning of the unconscious mind, there is the model of the mind. There's two different levels, right? There's the conscious and then the subconscious, also known as the unconscious mind. And from the time that you're born, or when you were born, you really only had like your fight, flight, and freeze, right? Kind of like that primal responses. And you had a couple fears, like your fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. And everything else becomes nurtured into us. And so from about birth till 8-ish years old, you're technically in like a hypnotic state, meaning you are suggestible to whatever people tell you. So during that time, if someone were to say, you're smart, you're stupid, money grows on trees, money doesn't grow on trees, or you have to work really hard for the things that you want, or rich people are evil, or you're fat, you're skinny, don't eat that. All these messages that we get from birth till 8 goes into our unconscious mind, which is essentially, it defines all of our reactions, all of our automatic actions, and it starts, I like to call it like our blueprint for life, right?
Yeah.
It's our roadmap. It is the software system that automatically runs all of the systems in our body, having our heart pump, to having us make decisions that are based on what was imprinted into us from that birth till 8-ish years old. I know that there's a lot of different numbers where people might say it goes up till 13, et cetera, but just knowing that your unconscious mind stores all of your memories, it stores the beliefs that become the guiding forces of your actions, your behaviors, and the consistent thoughts that run through your mind. And they say that your subconscious mind is about 90 to 95% of your mind power. And then your conscious mind is anywhere from 5 to 10%. And the conscious mind just defines the thoughts and the actions within our awareness. So,
Wow.
even though we like, totally. And so what's interesting is a lot of tools out there will work on the conscious level. And again, the conscious mind is around 5 to 10% of our mind power. And it's the things that you can consciously think right now, right? The unconscious, again, is that blueprint that's been conditioned into you from a very young age that is actually making the decisions for you, even though you think consciously, I'm deciding. And so even though you might have a conscious desire, like I want to be in a relationship, right? I deeply desire it. I know it. I've thought about it all the time. I want to be in a healthy, loving, romantic relationship.
Yeah.
And for me, I didn't have healthy relationship with men modeled in my childhood. So even though I consciously, I'm using myself as an example now, even though I consciously wanted a healthy relationship, unconsciously in my subconscious, what was wired in was that men don't treat you well. And I had an unworthiness of love. I didn't feel worthy of love. And I also felt really unlovable. That was a belief I held for a long time. So because those were my beliefs, what did I do? I consistently created or attracted experiences or people, things into my life that validated what I believe, which is all stored in your subconscious mind. Even though consciously I'm like, it's not what I want. It doesn't matter what you consciously desire, because that's only, again, small amount of your mind power. Whatever you believe in your subconscious is always going to win out. Because if you peg them against each other, right? 90 to 95% versus 5 to 10%, which is going to win.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of tools go to the conscious mind, like reframing.
When you say tools, like what can you describe those tools?
Let's say like tools for healing or transformation, or even when people talk about like manifestation, right? It's like a word that's thrown out there a lot. They think, oh, well, I can just think it, or I'll just write it down and want it. But if what's internal, our belief system in our subconscious is not aligned with that, we're never going to be able to attract or create or achieve it. And many tools, again, on the conscious level, instead of the tools that work in the subconscious, that really are the ones that you need to lean into to be able to change the subconscious beliefs in order to attract, call in, or achieve the things that you want in life. And what's wild is many times if someone says, I want something, and then they struggle to get it. I know this has been me before too. Before I learned about all this, I would have thoughts like, maybe it's not meant for me. I must not be smart enough, or maybe it's not, maybe in another lifetime, right? Because when people try to achieve something and they continually block themselves, sabotage, or fail at it, they turn to themselves like there must be something wrong with me, or maybe I'm not meant to have it. But really where they got to look is, Do my beliefs align with what I desire? And
Very well
if
said.
you don't, that's what's going to block you majority of the time to achieve what you want. Or you might have a stroke of luck and you achieve the thing, but then you'll sabotage it back to the set point. So classic example is lotto winners, right? Most people, not all, who might purchase a lotto ticket tend to have scarcity or lack mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And someone wins, you just have that stroke of luck. And they say about 70% of all lotto winners end up going deeper into debt than when they started when they won.
Wow.
Why? Because what they believe is scarcity and lack. So even though they had that stroke of luck and won all this money, you're always going to play to the level of your beliefs. So then they start to make decisions that end up having them lose money. They might overspend. They might hire a business manager who ends up stealing money from that. There's all kinds of scenarios that can occur, but all this is reflective of what it is that they believed to start with. So again, this is why it's so important to have your subconscious mind aligned with what you want so that you can have what you want with greater ease and it's not an uphill battle or feel like it's something that you could never achieve.
And it really is so well said, because we've, unless you live under a rock, everybody's heard about The Secret and everybody's heard of the law of attraction. But it doesn't work for most people. And I actually talked about this in my book, where I would struggle because I'd have a good day or a good week and I'd be like, all right, I could do this and vision board and blah, blah, blah. And then something would happen that would set me back, and it would be like, well, that showing me all the reasons why that can't happen. And for me, what made the law of attraction start to actually work was the power of prayer, which I realized were the same thing. It was just believing in something and having the faith that it's going to show up even though you can't see it. So yep. I really nailed that, kind of put that in the book. But also, I like what you said about your belief, which is the subconscious mind. Is it matching up with what you want? So can you give the listeners some things they can do right now to start to help rewire their subconscious mind to bring in abundance and opportunity and ease of life or love or whatever it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of different ways to wire your subconscious. One way is through repetition. So when you have people really affirming what it is that they desire, that is one way, right? Now, it goes beyond just affirmations. It also is a matter of feeling that what you're saying is true. Because even if you say something, but you feel like, oh, cringy, or that's not true, well, you're actually rejecting the thought that you're saying. So, right. So what I tend to do a lot when I'm doing my affirmations is it'll be during a time when I'm in a natural hypnotic state, which is like your brain waves are at about beta, alpha, theta. And then delta is sleep. The alpha theta time of your brainwave is like when you're most suggestible. And that's when things can actually go into your unconscious, subconscious mind without the ego rejecting it. So as an example of someone saying, I am beautiful, they're affirming that. Consciously, you're like, this is BS. I don't believe this. This is stupid. Why do I keep saying that? But if you're in that alpha theta state, that part of your mind that is ego, that is the critical part of your mind, it's dialed down. So the ability for that belief to go, or that thought to go into your subconscious to become a belief, you have a higher chance of doing that. And you're naturally in the alpha theta kind of hypnotic state as you fall asleep and when you wake up in the morning.
I was about to ask you exactly, like, when do you get into that?
Yeah. So when you're falling asleep and when you're waking up, there's also ways of doing it, like self-hypnosis, when you slow down your breath and tune into your body. There's other techniques that I could teach, but as like a quick tip, because you're going into that natural hypnotic state as you're falling asleep and when you're waking up in the morning, use that time to really affirm and start to feel what it is that you're saying of what you want to create as your beliefs. Do not, during those times, watch the news, fall asleep to a scary TV show, stare at your social media and start to compare yourself to other people's lives, or do any of those negative things that we tend to do, or stress out about what you didn't complete for the day or what you have to do for the day. And notice that many times, right, as you're going to sleep or right when you're waking up in the morning, people will grab their phones and boom, they're automatically focused on something else. And they might already create that negative feeling or the negative thoughts right off the bat. Well, guess what? That's when your mind, again, is in that natural hypnotic state. Do not, and I call it kind of like that miracle time when you can create with it. Stand guard of it and use it as a time to really build in what it is that you want to believe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so totally. So right before you're feeling tired, you're getting into bed. Usually we lay there for 5 or so minutes before we fall asleep. And in that moment when you feel like you're about to doze off, that is the time where you should, when the TV's off and it's dark, that you should really be doing your affirmations.
Yeah. So you could start to affirm yourself, right? What is it that I actually want to believe? If what we believe is what we create in our external reality, what do I want to create in my external reality? And then what beliefs do I need to have then to support that? So a good exercise too is I always write out, what are my goals that I want to achieve? And then I have to think about, what do I need to believe about myself and about the thing in order for me to be able to attract or to achieve it? Because you need to have
amazing.
Yeah.
It's so well said, because I feel like people, we all, especially we're almost at 2023, and a lot of people are writing goals at this time. What do I want to accomplish for this year? And this is so good, because it's now, encourage all of you to not only write down your goals, but put the beliefs you need to have in order to achieve that goal. This is brilliant. Where's I had a bell?
Yay!
A bell right now.
Where's your bell, Madison? So for some people, let's say that you want to create, just because I mentioned it earlier, a loving relationship, right?
Okay.
And so far you haven't yet. Well, what's in the way? What is it that you're believing right now that's actually blocking you from that love? And maybe it could be that it's hard to find love. I hear that coming out of people's mouth all the time, or dating in whatever city they live in is really difficult, or all the good men are taken. Well, guess what? If you believe that, do you think you're going to call on your person? Most likely not. So if I actually want to call in a healthy, loving relationship, supportive, faithful, whatever it is, because I know for me, I mean, I'm very open about, and on many other podcasts I've shared that I attracted cheaters. Is that what I wanted? No. But what was wired in my subconscious continually had me unconsciously seek those men out, and I ended up in a relationship with them, and the ending was usually the same. Now, in order for that to shift, where I was like, no, this is actually what I desire, right? A healthy, loving, faithful, supportive relationship where I feel seen and loved and adored and appreciated, and all the other things I wanted. I'm like, okay, well, what do I need to believe about men? What do I need to believe about myself? And what do I need to believe about love that would actually align with what I'm saying I want? And then that's when it informed me of, okay, this is the work now. These are the beliefs that I've got to embed in. And again, not just think them, but feel them like it's deeply true. And then that becomes my blueprint. That becomes my navigation system, the software that's running on autopilot, to easily bring in the people, experiences, and things that continue to validate what I believe.
So what were some of those beliefs that caused the shift? You were saying, I'm worthy of love. I only attract loyal people.
Yeah. So I'm worthy of love was a big one. And I'm lovable just as I am, because I had a big thing around performance. Like I was only loved when I performed. So whether I did something for you or I achieved something in my life, then that made me lovable, maybe kind of. And
from that for so long, and there's still part of me that's still working on that. That resonates a lot. Like I always felt like for me, to be completely honest and vulnerable, I talked about it a little bit in my book. I would say like, oh, I'm not ready for a relationship, or I don't deserve the right relationship because I am not financially where I want to be. And I ran on this for years because I was, trying to be an artist and all that stuff. And then I would say, well, when I'm rich, I'll have everything. I have more. And it was such a horrific thing that took me a long time to break. And there's still moments it creeps up, but I'm now aware of it, and I try to shut it down as fast as I can.
Yeah. So that's the key. So you see it right now, right? Whatever you believe, or you're noticing the thoughts, that persistent thoughts that come up, because some people say too, what is it that I believe? And I'm like, well, just look at your external reality, because your external world is a reflection of what you believe. If you
Yeah.
look at your bank account and it's not where you want it to be, if you look at your relationships of friends, even, it's not where you want it to be. If you look at the state of your physical body, the health of it, these are all reflections of what it is that you believe. And so coming back to your question of, and actually two questions of what can people do, and also what did I do to call in love? I had to believe that I was lovable just as I am. I had to believe that I was worthy of love, right? So again, got rid of that performance thing of like, you're only lovable when you do X. And the very first one that made a huge difference for me was I started to embed in that everywhere I go, all I see and experience is good men.
Wow. Wow.
Because I had to do a baby step, right? I couldn't just go everywhere. Like, I have the most amazing, I had to start to decondition the thing that was blocking what I wanted and go, okay, what's the next step of what I need to have in order for me to start calling in this person? And that was kind of step one. And what I did, obviously, is like I would think those thoughts as I would fall asleep. When I'd wake up and pee in the middle of the night, I know that I'm also in that hypnotic state. You're still in that woozy state. So I was like, whoop, don't think negative thoughts as you're going to the bathroom. So I would also,
Wow. I always pee in the middle of the night.
right, girlfriend. So
Wow.
as you're peeing, you think those thoughts that you want. And if you take the time to do the work to write down what are the beliefs that I need to hold about myself, about the thing that I want, you're already going to be empowered to know what they are if you're peeing in the middle of the night, as you're falling asleep, or when you're waking up in the morning. You don't have to try to grab at things because you're very clear about what those are.
Yeah,
so during those moments in time, do that. Now, taking it another step deeper is, as I keep talking about, and I know a lot of people, when they talk about manifestation or calling things in, it's not just about the thought, it's the feeling that it's true.
Yeah.
You need to align your mind and emotions and your spirit really to be a straight shot for what it is that you desire. So what I'll do, in addition to affirming, I'll create pictures in my mind. That's a very hypnosis thing to do, is like creating the visual pictures of what it is that you desire as if it's happening, like seeing it as if it's happening, and I immerse myself in it. So if I see a hand reach out, it's my hand. It's not, you can watch a screen of yourself on the screen, but I love to immerse where it's literally me navigating into it. So I'm looking throughout my own eyes. It's my parts set up, my body, that I'm feeling the things, I'm smelling the things, I'm hearing the things. And then another trick to do is to dial up all the colors and the sensations inside of it. So
it's amazing.
Your mind doesn't know that what's in your imagination, that if it's happening in real time or if it's in your imagination.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So the more that you visualize and feel like it's happening, like you're immersed in this thing, you're thinking the thoughts that you want to think of that type of person having what she or he wants, eventually your brain's like, oh, well, we've been here before, we've done this before, let me just bring it to her or him, right? Because we will continue to create and attract the things that feel very familiar to us.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's unfamiliar is actually perceived as a threat by the mind, even if it's happiness.
Interesting.
Then we'll reject what we feel is not familiar to us. Quick example, I used to work a lot with at-risk youth foster kids. They have a deep belief of I'm unlovable, right? Makes sense because their parents left them. If they're in the foster care system, many of them are abused mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually. So it keeps deepening their beliefs around that. And so the moment you try to show them love, they're like, because it's not familiar to them. What's familiar is rejection, abuse. And so you try to extend love. And even though, of course, all we want is love, it's so unfamiliar that it's actually perceived as a threat by them. And they try to kick it out, which is why when I was volunteering with them, they would have such challenging behaviors, because then eventually you're like, I give up. And then they get to prove themselves right and say, see, I knew you didn't love me. See, I knew you'd give up on me, even though it's not what I would want to do or anybody else, but they create the behaviors to then prove themselves right. Same thing with people who struggle with sadness, right? Maybe they pick that up from their parents when they were younger. They just had parents who struggled with depression, or maybe were constantly anxious and their nervous system calibrated to their parents, or they were always in this cloud of sadness. Well, I've had clients in the past where it's like you try to introduce joy and then they start to feel it, and all of a sudden they hit their set point. They're like, that feels so weird. I don't know. And then they'll like sabotage it. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen people do that before? Or have you ever experienced that before? I know I have, where
Yeah.
I could only have so much happiness, and then my mind would come in to attack me and then take me down in a moment of like deep,
Well,
or like,
and I've heard a lot of, not a lot, but I've heard several people say, everything's going so well. I'm just bracing myself for when something, and that's exactly what that is. It's
mhm,
exactly what that is, because they're familiar of the struggle or the sadness or whatnot,
yep.
that they can't accept that no, things actually can keep going. And
Mhm,
I've been talking to, a friend of mine who's kind of having some trouble in a relationship.
mhm,
And I always try to remind her, life is happening for you, not to you. And the
mhm,
universe could be pulling this out to let
mhm.
something better come in. But I think that this person is particularly so wired to maybe, you know, now trying to blame herself, because she's thinking, well, this is just what happens in relationships. It's not meant to be easy, because her belief is relationships aren't easy.
Yep,
Because when I said it should be easy, she seemed to reject that thought. And so I'm like,
yep.
oh, okay, we need to rewire this.
There we go. 100%, right? So people are always speaking their beliefs. Pay attention. Pay attention to yourself and hear what comes out of your mouth, right? Even exactly what you said. The other kind of phrasing is, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, guess what? They're actually expecting something bad to happen now. Well, if that's what you believe, the other shoe will drop, the other shoe is gonna drop. But if you also believe that things always get better and better and better in my life, well, we're gonna view things in life in a certain way that's gonna keep proving ourselves right about how things just keep getting better. And wouldn't we want that?
Yes.
So if we actually have the sovereignty
Mm-hmm.
to decide what we want to believe, wouldn't we take the time and effort to rewire those beliefs to support us in life instead of taking us down, which I see most people doing. And I see a lot of people saying, well, life is just
I love
hard.
this.
It's like, is it really though? Or are you making it hard because you're
You're
telling yourself?
making it hard. Yes.
Because you believe it's hard, it's going to be hard. If you believe it's easy, it's going to be easy. I had a friend, I did a Vipassana. It's a 10-day silent meditation. Now, just the thought of it, most people, yep, that face that you just made.
I'm
Most
like,
people are like,
what?
what?
I can't
Yeah,
even see silent for 10 minutes.
you can't talk for 10 days. You cannot look at other people for 10 days, and you get to meditate for 14 and a half hours a day. 10 days of this.
Do you eat?
Yeah, they'll feed you.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
of course you eat.
Like, that sounds like
But
a great weight loss regimen.
yeah, no, you eat. It's vegetarian, but you eat. And it was interesting because that was the one thing I've put myself through so many different types of modalities. I've done the plant medicine route to the, anything in the name of transformation. I've really explored it. But that was the one thing that terrified me, was that Vipassana, the 10-day silent meditation. And so I talked to different friends of mine who did it, and they would all give their different opinions. And some were like, oh, it was hard, but it was the best thing I ever did. Oh my God, that was like the worst. And then finally, one of my friends said, I loved it. I was like, what? And he's like, I loved it. I loved all of it. I was like, what did you love about it? He's like, I just decided I was going to love it. And I did.
Wow.
That really struck me, because we are creating our reality all the time with our words and what we believe. So if we say, oh, this is going to be a hard conversation, what if you said, this is going to be an easy conversation? This is going to be a fun conversation. What if you go, I could have gone into the Vipassana and said, this is going to be the worst thing ever, but it's going to be so good for me. It's probably going to be really bad, but it's going to be good for me, right? I can find the goodness in it. But what I went into the Vipassana too, going, okay, well, Jake said he loved it, so you know what? So am I. And it was one of the most beautiful, profound experiences, and I loved every minute of it.
That is awesome, because you kind of set yourself up for that, which is so awesome. But it's true. I was just talking. I just did I do some quick like YouTube short videos, around the book. And I just literally watched this video that I was going to upload to YouTube. And I said, what if we just started expecting things to work out for us? No matter what, no matter how much of a mountain it seems, we just expect it. And when things maybe they're what we call bump in the road or didn't go as planned, we're expecting it to work out for us. We're just expecting that that's a positive part of the plan. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, a launch got moved, or a deadline had to be pushed again, or you didn't, you're like, but I'm expecting this to work. So somehow this is working for me. So this is all good. We should just start, especially with dating too, because it's still an area I need to work on. Instead of being like, oh, another date, at least it's a free meal. Cause I used to run on that, I'm getting for free. This is great. Right.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, no, I'm expecting to have a great time. I'm expecting it to work out, or I'm expecting to meet the love of, oh, here's a new one for all you single people out there. I want to encourage everyone to start saying, I expect to meet the love of my life because that's what I deserve and that's what I'm worthy of. I expect it. And see what happens. And write into the show and let me know.
All good things. There was this beautiful video a friend of mine sent me, and it was by Esther Hicks, and all it was a loop with music of her going, everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me.
Oh.
So similar to what you said, if you expect good things, or I expect that everything is always working out for me, it will. Because we actually, as human beings, we will delete and distort information to fit what it is that we believe.
I love that.
So if I believe everything is working out for me, I'm always going to be looking through the lens. And even if I have to delete information out or distort it a little bit to fit, oh, see, it's working out for me. That's what our brains will do.
So here's a big thing. So a lot of people will actually say, oh, I'm doing these affirmations, I'm on the right track, and then they run into somebody or they talk to a family member and they say something that pushes them off their track. Maybe let's use an example. I live in an abundant mindset and everything's going to work out and I don't need to really worry about money. And they're like, are you delusional? Do you live under a rock? Like you have to make sure you're saving. You got to do this for a rainy day. You got to da. Like, how do you kind of drown out the negativity of other people who have false beliefs while you're building up your own beliefs?
Well, one thing is I'm so careful about who I spend my time with.
But sometimes you can't avoid it because it's family
and
a worker.
And if you do not believe it, it won't affect you. And if it does affect you, then some part of you still believes it. And that's the cleanup that you have to do. As an example,
I
if
like
I
that.
say, Madison, instead of calling you Madison, I called you Audrey. You'd be like, I'm not Audrey. And I'm like, Audrey, your name's Audrey. You're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But you wouldn't be like, oh, I'm not Audrey. What do you mean, Audrey? Right? You just be like, I'm not Audrey. I'm Madison. But if I were to say, hey, Madison, the only time that people are going to find you valuable is if your book becomes a New York Times bestseller. Not saying that that's what you believe, but I remember earlier we were talking about like performance, right? Like I have to do love. And if you actually believe that, you might be like, oh shit. And someone said that to you, or your parent said it to you. You're like, Madison, you're kidding me? If you don't have the success, no one's going to like you or care about you. If there's a part of you that believes that, you're going to get triggered. Yeah. Right? It's going to hurt you. Well, guess what? It's not them. It's you that has to do the work to clean that up. So my dad, we were in an elevator going to my sick grandmother's hospital room. And I had spoken to him really. He picked me up from the airport. We're standing across from each other in the elevator. He looks me up and down and just goes, looks like you gained some weight.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, I looked down and I'm all, yeah, I think you're right. I might have gained a couple pounds. I chose just to not let it affect me, right? One, it was kind of true. I had, but I could have been offended, but I wasn't. Why? Here's another tool or technique. So one is if it triggers you, you got to heal that belief, because People will only activate within you what you believe, right? So if you believe that negative thing about yourself and someone says it to you and you get triggered by it, that means that some way, somehow deep down, you actually believe it too. And then it becomes your work to rewire it, to shift that belief about yourself that, again, if someone says it, you're like, what are you talking about? Just like when I said Audrey, you're like, what are you talking about? Because it doesn't resonate for you because you don't believe it. And then the other tool that I use a lot that's super helpful that I learned from, because I'm always about look at yourself and where do you do the work instead of trying to make other people change.
Well, you
But
can't control anyone else. You can only change yourself.
correct. And the other piece is I just see it as words coming out of someone's mouth, right? I learned this powerfully from this one training program I did where they said that everything's a neutral event.
Yeah.
And it's just the meaning that you place on the event that either creates heaven or hell in your life, right? Or it creates the resistance or it creates the liberation, what are the good, the bad, whatever it is. And so how I could, at using that tool in action with my dad, I'd be like, oh, my dad opened his mouth and some words came out of his mouth. He said some words or he said specifically, looks like you gained some weight. That's what happened. I could put the meaning of, oh, he doesn't love me. He's so critical.
Yeah.
I must be fat. I'm disgusting. That's on me.
Yeah.
Or I went the other way of words came out of his mouth. I looked down. I was like, he's right. I gained a couple pounds. Laughed it off. It was not a big deal, right? It's the meaning that we place onto the things that happen in our life that either make it great or can make it the worst thing ever in our life. That can have us be triggered or have us be free. And so if our parents say something, you're like, oh, well, what actually happened is some words came out of their mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I like that. So this leads me to my next thing, right? Where, what do you say to those people? And I might have a few listeners that fall into this category, or definitely everybody knows somebody who does. The people, oh, they drive me crazy. The people that are easily offended. I was a comic for years, so I'm like, don't be offended. This is stupid. Stop being I always call it, if you're offended, you're being a narcissist because you just took something and made it all about you. Okay. Offended people are narcissistic people. Do not be that, right? Why is that passing thought all about you? They don't even know you. This happened in comedy clubs a lot. So you can tell I'm a little like, take your offense and shove it up your ass. No, I'm just kidding. So, okay. So what do you tell people who are easily offended or offended? Because it's on them. It's not on the person that said it.
So again, it's for you to decide if you want to be offended or not.
I've said this multiple times. It is
you're always
choice.
Yeah, you're always at choice. And same thing with what I just said. It's up to you to place the meaning on things. So if you place a meaning, you make an interpretation of that comment or that experience that's negative or means something negative about you, that's on you. You could also spin it and make it something positive about you. You said earlier, and this is actually kind of fun, not what you said, but this other tool. You said, well, what if your parents say, well, you're delusional? Why would you think that? I was like, yeah, be delusional. We're making delusions all the time. Everything that we decide, we could be delusional and say, I am the best in the world at this thing. And then we start to do the actions to become that person. Or you can make the delusion of I am lovable. Is that true or not? I don't know. I'm the one that's making it up right now. And so if somebody also says something to you, like you make a joke, look, I'll just bring it up. I had someone when I was a little kid call me a chigger, and I was like, what's a chigger? They're like Chinese N-word,
My
right?
gosh.
Yeah. And I just looked at him and I remember I was like, I just burst out laughing because I thought he was the dumbest kid on the block for making up a word like that.
Yeah.
The meaning, I could have made up a different meaning. I could have made it mean like, oh my gosh, I must be this less than person, or I'm an outcast, or I'm different, or look at my yellow skin and they're all white. I could have made up that meaning about that experience. But what I did instead was I made up the meaning that this is a dumb kid.
I like that.
And listen to the stupid things he's saying. And I laughed it off. Again, one event that occurred, two different perspectives. I'll give another one, and this is just showing that our power of our interpretation or the meaning that we make.
I like, yeah.
My brother was in China with my dad. It was cold, and my dad said to my brother, "Hey, are you cold? Do you need a jacket?" My brother was in his 30s. He's like, "No, dad, I'm good." And then again, he goes, "Son, you must be cold. Go grab a jacket." My brother's like, "I'm a grown ass man, dad. I don't need a jacket." So then my dad makes his assistant take off his jacket and give it to my brother. And my brother got pissed. He was like, "Dad, like, I'm not cold. Stop trying to force things." My brother told me the story. And guess what I heard? I heard, instead of my dad trying to control him, which was my brother's interpretation or meaning, I heard, wow, my dad really loves my brother and cares about him. That he
That's how I
wants,
saw it too. That like he
yeah,
cared about him so much, no matter what, he was still his dad.
yeah. And he kept wanting to make sure my brother was comfortable and warm, to the point where he made his assistant take off his jacket to ensure that my brother was comfortable and warm. So same event, right, Madison? My dad said, are you cold? You need a jacket. My brother had this one meaning around it, like he's trying to control me, he doesn't listen to me. And I heard it as, oh my gosh, he cares so much, he was putting
Oh,
so much attention and focus and concerned about you. So the same thing goes with anything.
yeah.
Someone can make a joke at a comedy club, and you can either make the meaning that it's like the most offensive thing that you've ever heard, or you can make the meaning of, oh my God, that's so funny and it's kind of true. Because I feel like a lot of comedians, they're true. You guys are truth tellers, right? You
Oh,
might say it in a way that,
you talk about things
yeah,
that are, create an emotion, right? Whether it can be a positive or a
yeah,
negative. It's a, it's either a pain point for
right,
the comedian or a pain point for society. And some
yeah,
people, but the problem is I think our society is unfortunately kind of catered towards being offended or this victim status. And so what's
right.
happening is people say, oh, well, I'm a victim. I was affected. And because what they're seeing on the news and on social media, it's like, oh, that gives me power. And it's like, no, no, no. When you are a victim, you just lost all your power.
You're powerless.
You gave your
Mhm,
power away.
mhm,
You're not a victim.
mhm.
You
No,
were power. That didn't have to affect you. And even if something maybe you perceive as negative or is negative happens to you, you can decide to not let it impact your life. You're the
mhm.
creator. So the society is like trying to make all these weak people. And we're like, no, no, nobody needs to be offended. Like shitty things are going to happen to us that we can't control, but they won't be as shitty if we're stronger and we choose not to take them on.
Yeah.
So,
And again, it's always up to your interpretation and
yeah.
the meaning that you make. That is your choice. You are always empowered to do that. There's an extraordinary book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor
Oh,
Frankl, Viktor Frankl. And he talks exactly about this very concept that I'm like sharing. Is he was in a concentration camp. He was in the Holocaust.
oh my gosh.
And it's the most horrific circumstance you
Yeah.
can be in. And yet he said it was the people who placed a meaning that was more empowering on the experience were the ones that survived. And the ones that had a more disempowering meaning to the experience they were having were the ones that didn't make it. And so it's such
Wow.
exactly the thing of things are going to happen in life. It's your interpretation of it. It's the meaning that you place on the thing that is either going to have it be the most beautiful experience or the hardest thing you've ever gone through in your life, or the thing that triggers you the most. And if it does trigger you, if you are on the path of growth and becoming your best self, then I feel like it's our duty to see the things that trigger us and begin to heal those parts of us that are being offended or triggered in some way, right? And it takes work. And there are also times when we can stand for something, but when it literally becomes debilitating for us, or it's something that we ruminate on for way too long than we need to, then that thing has power over us. We don't have power anymore, right? Of
Oh,
course, you
100%.
can be angry and hurt, but it
Yeah.
depends on how long you hold on to it for, is when it actually hurts yourself. And that's still, again, your choice. So, yeah.
Brilliant. I love it. I love it. Okay, so before we obviously have to go, we still have some time left, but I want you to tell us about your company that you're the CEO and co-founder of, Rapid Rewire Method.
Yeah. So the Rapid Rewire Method, quick short story is I had a miscarriage last year. And even though it's okay, it was one of the greatest, interpretation. I could make meaning out of it that's super negative or positive. However, I did go into a dark hole at the beginning.
Yeah,
I
which
went
is
into
understandable.
Yeah, I got pregnant without trying at 43 years old. So I was like, oh my God, it's a miracle. And I want to be a mom.
Yeah.
And so when I miscarried 9.5 weeks later, I went to a deep, dark hole. And I was like, the universe is not benevolent. F you to whatever is out there that like played this cosmic joke on me, like I just went into a really dark, dark, dark place. And so I ended up after 5 months, I'm a highly trained professional, over 14 years as a practitioner working in subconscious rewiring. I've got tons of tools. Affirmations is just the beginning of what I told you guys. I wish there was more that I could share, but that was just like a quick little first step, right? But there's tons of tools that I had and ways that I could move myself through deep grief. And yet the tools I had were not fully working to get me there. After 5 months, when I still had days where I couldn't function, I would see people holding babies, I'd start crying. I'd see people making announcements about being pregnant in 2021, which feels like everyone and their mother was announcing they were pregnant, right? And so for me, it was really, really, really difficult. And I ended up getting connected to a set of tools that our trauma release tool in one session process the trauma, drain the emotional charge of the miscarriage, that after 60 minutes, I couldn't even feel it. Sadness and grief, gone, 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 gone. And I was like, what happened to me? Yep. And then I kept working with these tools and consistently had quick shifts of removing limiting beliefs, breaking through inner barriers, any sort of mental and emotional dysregulation that I was stuck in. Like if I was stuck in anger, I was stuck in resentment, gone, 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 gone. And
wow. And was it like a charge that you hooked to your head?
No, these are just scripted tools that you can literally follow. So
wow.
I could hand you a script right now, one of our scripts, Madison, and you can go step 1, step 2, step 3. And if you can follow it, you could actually create a permanent change in yourself, because all of our tools can be used on yourself. It can be used with another person. So if a family member or a friend of yours, like the one who is stuck in that relationship that's not healthy, who thinks that relationships need to be, difficult, you could actually cause a shift for someone else. And then I've even run the same exact protocol in groups. I was just in Fiji at a retreat with 65 entrepreneurs, ran one of our tools to 65 of them. And I would say like 80% of them converted. It's difficult to get 100% when you're facilitating a group, but great results. So I believe deeply in these tools, and we teach them to practitioners, coaches. We do corporate trainings, and we also people who are just passionate about their own personal growth and want tools that work to help them break through any sort of problems, limiting beliefs, again, any mental or emotional turmoil or inner barriers. They can use our tools to help themselves through it. So we're not in the game either of like I don't process people, but our company trains people in this tool set so that you don't have to always rely on another person to help you. You can help yourself. And I feel like this is what the world needs, is fast, integrative healing, transformation, and ones that can be self-applied. So we're not always running around outside of us trying to find someone to help us. You're going to have a very, step-by-step, dependable process that if you follow it, you can actually help yourself and then also help another. And they're so simple too. People will
go
through
that simple, easy, and quick. That's what we need.
And that the results stick. So that's huge. Yeah.
So is this something that's kind of affordable, or is it?
Yeah. We have different tiers of pricing. So even right now, people can go onto our website, which is rapidrewiremethod.com. We have a freebie of one of our tools. You can just listen to it and it'll help you. I've had so many people go, oh my God, I just listened to your recording and it was like, boop, gone. And it's up for smaller things, of course, because if you have a huge life issue, you might want to work with a practitioner, and we have certified rapid rewire coaches that we could always refer to people. But then like a little entry point, we have one tool that people can learn on their own. And then if they want the full suite of tools, it's a little bit pricier. But again, if you think about how much would you spend on a therapist annually, right? If you did
Well,
however
yeah,
you
it depends on how many issues you got.
yeah, exactly. The actual cost of this is minimal because you're going to get processed in it. So you clear your stuff during the training. You'll have tools to help yourself. And really, in the grand scheme of things, it's a lot more cost effective than constantly seeking outside people to help you for years.
Well, I always say, and interesting. I think therapists and psychiatrists, whatever you need, are great. And if it helps you, if you need it, please don't stop, do it.
Absolutely.
But I also have this belief that they need to keep the customers to keep the money coming in. So they don't want to totally cure you. Like, this seems more like it's actually going to heal you and fix you, so you don't have to keep coming back to dump your dirty laundry every week just to
Yeah.
make you feel better, that you don't have as much dirty laundry because you've actually started to rewire your subconscious mind,
Yeah.
which means that you need less of an outlet all the time.
Yeah. And you have tools to help yourself at any moment in time. So
I
even
love
one of
that. I think this is
that's
brilliant.
yeah, like one of my best girlfriends, we were on a trip in Croatia, and the first night I like met a new friend and kind of walked off and hung out with this person. So she was left alone, and she told me, she's like, oh my gosh, no one would talk to me. Like literally it was wild for her, because she goes, she felt like they were ignoring her. And she said that usually when she's in a group and people don't talk to her, she feels awkward and unattractive. Just revealed her beliefs, right?
Yep.
And so instead of sitting with it, she went into her cabin on the boat and she used one of our tools. And in 20 something minutes, it was gone. And she came out and she goes, people kept walking up to her and going, hey, they said her name, and they're like, I want to drop in with you, or I want to connect with you. And she's like, what is happening? Like, people were ignoring me before, and now they're actually wanting to connect.
Was the tool she used the freebie one you have on your website?
No, it's called
Damn.
reduction expansion, so it's a
Damn
different
it.
one. No, but the one on our website is also a great tool as well. Hence if you want to learn more tools, just we have a whole training. But she continued to use that same one through the whole trip. And she was like, every time she felt like insecure, when she felt upset, when she felt hurt, when she felt awkward, she just kept clearing it, and then had a whole different experience on the trip. Because remember, we're going to experience what we believe or what we tell ourselves. You brought it up before, if I expect to have a great time on the trip. And so all the things that would block her from having that experience, she got rid of it on her own.
Jeez.
On this trip. And we debriefed after the trip, and I was kind of like, man, if you held on to all those negative beliefs that kept coming up, your trip would have been radically different than what you experienced. Yes. She's like, no. And so imagine in life, it's like 11 o'clock at night and you're having a mind attack, because that's what our minds can do to us sometimes.
Yeah, it's anxiety. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And instead of sitting with it and then falling asleep during that really critical time when your mind is in like a natural hypnotic state, you go, I'm taking control. And you grab one of the tools and you clear it quickly. And then you go to bed without the issue anymore. Our lives will be very different. And so again, that's what our mission is to empower people with the capability to help themselves at any moment in time. And then also, because they're so simple and easy to follow, anyone can learn it, not just for themselves, but they can use it on another person in their life. So this is what's going to ripple out and truly contribute to like global peace and healing and transformation. And I know there's multiple things out there, but this is what I've really felt worked. And this is what my mission is all about.
Well, amen to you, sister.
Thank you.
I am very grateful for you for coming on the show. I'm very grateful for the work that you do. I'm definitely going to talk to you offline so I don't have to air all my dirty laundry. Even though people are like, you read a book that felt like your diary. And yeah, I don't know if
there's dirtier laundry than that. What'd you say?
So I don't have many secrets at this point. I'm a very open book, but I like to be that way. Because I'm like, you know what? That's how you can connect with people more. You're like, this is my stuff. This is my good. This is where I struggle. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. This is what I need to work on. You create an authentic connection.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. Who knows what it is? But okay, so tell us the where they can find you again, the Rapid Rewire. What is it?
Yeah, it's Rapid Rewire Method.com.
Okay.
That's our website. And then on Instagram, we're just at Rapid Rewire Method.
Okay.
My personal is at I am Stephanie Kwong. That's KWONG. And you can also find our stuff there. And if you slide into my DMs, I'll usually respond on Instagram.
Appropriately slide into her DMs. Okay.
Appropriately, people.
They'll slide into my DMs. It's funny. I have a social media company that like runs most of my stuff now. And it's funny. I'm like, thank God nobody slides into my DMs, meaning like inappropriate. Because they'd be seeing dick pics. I'm like, nobody sends me dick pics. I must have like a I'm gonna report you face. I don't know. Because nobody.
That's good.
The only spam I get is like, look at this new crypto project. Look at this new NFT. And I'm like, okay, I clearly look like a smart person. I'm okay with that. I like
good.
that.
Yeah, I like it for you too.
Slide into her DMs appropriately. Okay, this was perfect. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being a guest on Next to Madison. I think this is the most perfect episode to kind of close as we approach the very end of the year, going into the new year where we want to make a new start and accomplish amazing goals. This was the episode. I say that you nailed it, and I nailed it by picking you to come on during this time.
Thank you so much, Madison. And thank you for the light that you bring to this planet, for you fully opening and sharing yourself and your story and the things that you've learned along the way to help others. I'm so excited for your book. I'm grateful for the show of you just putting out, different things for people to learn and grow through. So thank you.
Oh, I so appreciate you. Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate all of you who are listening, wherever you may be. Thank you for continuously tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. It helps us tremendously. And don't forget, if you are listening to this, that we also have a YouTube channel, so you can check out the video there. You can see that I'm not as shiny today, and I didn't have my nose itched a couple times. I have this allergy thing when I come to Colorado. But yeah, if you want to see my face for an hour, then check out our YouTube. And you can also see Stephanie, so you can get to know her as well. So yeah, and be well and have a wonderful, wonderful holiday, and start working on those goals, and most importantly, the beliefs behind them.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.